Hey, this is Maria. This is my second part of my debate video on outsourcing, and again I'm doing this on my own since I was not able to find a partner, which was to my own fault because I should have posted that I needed a partner earlier in this week. So I'm going to go ahead and just do this one on my own as well. I'm going to go ahead and start with the pros of what outsourcing benefits are. So most companies, which is the obvious reason, is that they outsource is because of cost-effective reasons. It's cheaper to pay somebody overseas for a job that could be done here, the same hours and the same type of process. Labor costs are less expensive, and also companies do not necessarily have to give those employees any benefits like medical or retirement plans. Another thing also is taxes. Companies may be exempt from certain types of taxes overseas, whereas here they can pay more in taxes and regulation costs. Another thing is leasing buildings. For example, I work in a company where the building is leased for a certain amount of time, and I'm sure the company pays hundreds and thousands of dollars to lease the building. So overseas it may be cheaper, rental costs may be cheaper, and even land ownership may cost less. Another thing is specialized skills. Companies can also look for different types of skills from overseas. For example, if somebody has been using or doing web development their whole life, and if a certain company needs a contract position for just that, then of course it would be cheaper to just have somebody who has specialized skills and hire them on board until the project is completed. And also education reasons. I work in a mortgage company where we actually outsource some of the jobs in the Philippines, and me being from the Philippines, I know for a fact that of course they're grateful for it because unemployment there is a lot worse than here, but also because the department that we currently work with who are in the Philippines also all have their bachelor degrees. So versus to where sometimes here, sometimes a person can only have a high school degree and be able to get a job, whereas in the Philippines usually you do have to have a bachelor's degree sometimes to obtain what we call a white collar job here. So education may be more prominent over there than over here, and that's why some companies may want to hire overseas for those types of reasons. Also liability. There's less liability for those who are outsourced than here, because if here there's definitely more liability when you're in the same building with your in-house employees, and laws here are a lot stricter as well. So liability is something that may be less over there. And also time zones. If you're looking at a customer service that you want for your company and it's 24/7 around the clock, you can use companies or employees overseas to do that for you, since they're living in different time zones, and when we're here off to bed, they can be up working. So it's another advantage. To move on to the cons, definitely I think a con that I think is a really big deal with outsourcing is of course taking jobs away from American people. When you have such an economic stressful situation and you are not able to find a job because you find that your job is being outsourced, it can definitely be a moral issue on the government's part or the company's part. For example, when GM and Chrysler filed for bankruptcy, the U.S. government had to back up their warranties, and President Obama made a statement saying that if you are considering buying a car, I hope it will be an American car. This was kind of a way to let Americans know that we do need to support the work here and the laborers here. And, even though imports were holding on their own, it was important that, we didn't want to see factories close down and Americans lose their job. So it's definitely something that's an issue when it comes to outsourcing jobs. And there's also the language barrier issue. For example, if you've ever had to call customer service and have them wire it to a cost center somewhere overseas, like in India or somewhere in Asia, that sometimes you couldn't understand that person, or certain words were didn't make sense to you. So there's definitely that language barrier. And also the processes could be different. For example, when we had to send loans to the Philippines to work, since I work in a mortgage company, they don't have mortgages over there, or home loans, or any of that matter. So we had to explain to them what a mortgage is, just the whole process. And it takes time. It costs money for companies to train those employees to understand our processes. And when you're sending somebody overseas, that could be like a 26 hour flight that costs a lot of money. And also, another thing would be more risk to that, is because when you count, working in a mortgage banking industry, when we're sending off accounts to overseas, that could really affect, especially those accounts become publicized, they could really affect, our customers. So there's a risk to that. And I think also outsourcing has become widely used. It's not so much companies that are doing it, just companies that are doing it, but I think it's different types of people. For example, websites like Guru and Elance can hire contractors that can write blogs or create a website, and they post that online. And some of those people that respond are, people from overseas who are willing to do the work. An example of that is an article I read about a software developer who outsourced his own job in China to somebody else so that he could surf the web all day. And he basically sent the company credentials in a FedEx box to that contractor so that that person could log in and do his work. The most interesting thing about that story is they didn't catch him until several years later. And before that, he actually received excellent reviews on his job. And, nobody would have expected that he was outsourcing his own work. So that was very interesting. I think in time, as outsourcing becomes widely used, and with the internet and so many social media sites, and we're just all connected through this media type world, it's going to become a lot more widely prominent. So that's for my outsourcing issue, and thank you for watching.